AI can write all the fancy articles for you, but when it comes to speaking up in meetings, negotiations, or even in private life, there is nothing AI can do. It's then good old DIY. Do it yourself. In fact, in this video, I'm going to talk about 7 SPIs, or commonly found speech pattern issues in everyone's communication skills, fixing which greatly enhances the way you present yourself and the way you are perceived. Your stories become more engaging, your points become more convincing. The problem is these SPIs are not arrested and identified in our childhood. And even if they are, we are mostly ridiculed for it. Nobody actually tells us how to correct them. But I have seen in my time in radio and television that freshers have come in year after year, underconfident, underskilled, and over a period of time, they've honed themselves into becoming engaging, enjoyable speakers. It's not a miracle. There is no magic. However, there is a process. My name is Rai. I'm a former media presenter and director, and out here I break down all those components that make us more confident and communicate better and help us build our own personal brand. To start with, let's talk about something called word fusion. This is something we do when we feel that we're going to lose our audience, that we do not have too much time, we're going to lose people's attention. We fuse 2 words together and make them sound like they're one word, and people cannot catch these words separately. So instead of saying, it's raining very heavily outside, you say it's raining heavily. So raining and heavily gets fused. Or instead of saying, give me the pink umbrella, give me the pink umbrella. You fuse words together so much that they are not identifiable separately anymore to human ear. Now, to find out whether you do that or not, you can dictate a speech to AI and see if they can read you legibly. People usually do this when there are more adjectives and adverbs. So a very easy way to work on this would be to feed any article to ChatGPT and ask it to double down on the adjectives and adverbs. Basically ask it to add more adjectives and more adverbs to the article. And then practice reading it, and while reading it, enunciate and be very, very clear when you have to pronounce those adjectives and adverbs. Almost stop and pause if need be. If you can relate to this point, comment below and you might as well subscribe to the channel. Another common speech pattern problem is interrupting. When someone else is speaking, we speak a little too early and get right in the middle of the sentence and don't let them finish. Usually we do this because either we feel we have something very important and interesting to add that will make this conversation even more lively and enjoyable, or we think that if we don't say it right away, we're going to forget it later, or when we think we already know where this is going and we strongly agree or disagree and we want to interrupt and stop it right there. In fact, this is one of the first feedbacks I got when I started working for radio. When a caller used to call and start telling his or her story, I would think of these witty punchlines and start interrupting all the time. But what would happen is this would distract the caller and not help them finish their story. And it would not be that enjoyable to the audience in the end. I really had to calm down and restrain myself and hold myself back a little in order to get around it. And you can do the same too. Let me tell you how you can go about this. You will wait your turn and tell yourself that I will not speak unless I'm asked to speak or until there's an awkward pause. Awkward pauses are your green signal. You will wait for that pause. And when there is a room full of people, you will tell yourself, I will not be the first one to speak. I will let someone else speak first and then go. In fact, because I have this inherent tendency to interrupt, last time I was at a meeting, what I did is I decided that I am not going to be the first one to speak. And when I really struggled to hold myself back, what I would do is, hey, would you like to go first? Or would you like to go first? So I was still the first one to speak. It's just that I was passing the baton on to somebody else. That is how bad my disease of interrupting is. But I have figured out a few ways to hold myself back. And if you have this problem, let me know in the comments. Then we can hug it out and sympathize for each other. By the way, you can subscribe to this channel, and I'm moving on to the next point. Another very common speech pattern issue, or SPI, is a 3-in-1 pattern. It's volume, pitch, and tone. I'm clubbing these 3 together because they are executed in the same manner. People either use only their mouth or throat or chest when they talk, and that makes all the difference. Now, when you speak very softly and only with your mouth part and in fact including your nose, you tend to get nasal and you tend to almost whisper and people can barely hear you. It gets worse if you have a chronic condition in your nose or a bronchial condition, or if you have a New York accent. Remember Janice from Friends? And I thought, I'm not nasal. until I signed up for an Indian classical singing lesson. I thought, wow, Indian classical is so traditional, so rich, so vast. I should be in on it and take a few classes. And I went very confidently because as a child, I have entered music competitions and I've even won them. So I was super confident that I was all good. All I needed to do was learn a few scales. Turns out I was out of pitch and I was superbly nasal. My Guruji spent an entire month just fixing my nasal tone. Now, nasal tone is not bad. It gives you a sound of your own. But if you're in a meeting and you're sounding all like this, it is not the most impactful CEO-like way to talk. Now, if you want to be more mindful of this, you can practice this at home by either putting your hand on your throat and speaking like this and making sure your throat really vibrates when you talk. And the second way is to monitor your meetings or wherever you're talking using an online audio level monitor. It is basically an equalizer that goes up and down and shows if you're being too soft or you're being too loud. You actually also get physical versions of this on Amazon, but you can also download an app. Now, if you want any links to any audio level meters, you let me know in the comments and I will hook you right up. Feel free to subscribe to this channel, and I'm moving on to the next point.